with immediate visceral rejection. Barbara Jean, with her booming laugh and boundless energy, was a force of nature. Confronting her about her eating habits felt akin to standing in front of a freight train. "No, you tell her." Reba straightened, a mischievous glint in her eyes, a familiar tactic surfacing in moments of uncomfortable truth. Rock, paper, scissors. It was their go-to conflict resolution, a childish game that often masked deeper anxieties. Ben groaned, a sound of utter resignation. He had played this game with his mother countless times, and the outcome was almost always the same. "Ben, you know you're going to lose." "Not this time." He squared his shoulders, a flicker of misplaced confidence in his gaze, a desperate hope that this time the universe would align in his favor. 1, 2, 3. Reba's hand snapped into a triumphant paper, enveloping Ben's meek scissors. The sound of their hands meeting was a sharp clap in the quiet kitchen. "Dang it!" Ben exclaimed, throwing his hands up in exasperation. His shoulders slumped. "Why do you always beat me?" "Because you always pick scissors." Reba's voice held a note of weary familiarity, a mother's resigned understanding of her child's predictable habits. "Of course I do. It's my system," he sighed, defeated, rubbing his temples. The system, however flawed, was his. "So you'll tell her." Reba's bravado, which had flared so brightly moments before, deflated like a punctured balloon. The thought of confronting Barbara Jean, her ex-husband's larger-than-life wife, about her eating habits was suddenly daunting. Barbara Jean was a friend, albeit a quirky, often exasperating one, but she was also incredibly sensitive beneath her boisterous exterior. "Yeah, fine. No, I don't want to. Come on, you tell her." She resorted to pleading, her hands clasped together, her usual take-charge demeanor momentarily abandoned. "No, please, please, please." Ben's voice rose in a desperate whine. "No, Ben." Reba shook her head, a firm line set on her lips. "Why should I tell her?" he argued, his logic surprisingly sound for a teenager. "Because girls can say that kind of stuff without having to come across like all they care about are looks." He paused, then, with a flicker of his usual charm, added, "By the way, you have been looking hot lately." Reba blinked, caught off guard by the unexpected compliment. A soft laugh escaped her lips, a brief respite from the tension. "I..." Just then, the front door burst open, and Barbara Jean, or BJ, as everyone affectionately called her, swept in. She was a woman of generous proportions, with a laugh that could fill a stadium and a heart equally as large. Today, however, she carried a suspiciously large, grease-stained pizza box, its aroma wafting through the kitchen, instantly undermining any healthy intentions. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes sparkling with a familiar, almost childlike excitement. "Look, sweetie," Reba interjected quickly, before Ben could utter another word, her voice a little too loud, a little too forced. "Why don't I tell her?" The unspoken agreement passed between mother and son. Reba, the seasoned diplomat, would take the fall. "Thank you," Ben mouthed, a wave of relief washing over him, his shoulders visibly relaxing. "Hey," BJ announced, oblivious to the silent battle that had just transpired, her voice booming with infectious enthusiasm. "Guess who Luigi gave the free pizza to?" She held up the box like a trophy. Reba's eyes narrowed, a sarcastic retort already forming on her tongue. "Luigi doesn't have to roll her out of the bed every morning." The words were muttered under her breath, a private commentary on BJ's seemingly endless appetite. "You know, Mom," Ben ventured cautiously, emboldened by Reba's intervention, "we really don't need another pizza. I mean, it's really just the three of us." He gestured between himself, Reba, and the invisible presence of his sister, Cheyenne, and her husband Van, who were usually elsewhere. BJ waved a dismissive hand, her cheerful demeanor undimmed. "Oh, I know, but I had to take it. It was free. Somebody will eat it." She paused, her eyes twinkling mischievously, as if sharing a secret. "Oh." The EBs were the imaginary, perpetually hungry inhabitants of their household, a running joke that often served to justify extra portions. Reba pinched the bridge of her nose. This was going to be harder than she thought. The pizza, a symbol of BJ's unbridled indulgence, seemed to mock her. "You know what, Mom?" Ben tried again, adopting a more serious, almost pleading tone, a genuine concern etched on his young face. I'm thinking maybe we should all try and get a little healthier around here. BJ scoffed, her usual good humor momentarily replaced by a defensive glint, a flash of something Reba hadn't seen before, a flicker of vulnerability, perhaps. What are you talking about? I'm pretty healthy. Her hands went to her hips, a defiant stance. Suddenly, the front door swung open again, and Brock, Reba's ex-husband, and BJ's current spouse, entered, his face a mask of exasperation. He held a large half-eaten bag of chips, which he had clearly just confiscated. His usually jovial expression was replaced by a look of sheer, unadulterated frustration. All right, that's it. Mrs. H, drop it. Drop it. Mrs. H, drop it. He snatched the bag from her hand, his movements swift and determined. Drop it. Drop it. He sounded like a dog trainer, not a husband. BJ looked at him, genuinely confused, her previous defensiveness giving way to bewildered hurt. Brock's voice cracked with a mixture of frustration and genuine concern, a raw emotion that surprised Reba. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, his eyes pleading. Mrs. H, I can't stand to see you do this to yourself. It's like you're trying to eat yourself to death. Why? What happened to you? What's different? His words, though harsh, stemmed from a place of deep worry, a fear for the woman he loved. BJ stared at him, her usual ebullience dimming, her cheerful facade crumbling. A silence, heavier than the pizza box, descended upon the kitchen. For the first time, Reba saw a flicker of something she hadn't anticipated in Barbara Jean's eyes. Not anger, but a profound sadness, a vulnerability that was rarely on display. Brock's words, blunt and unthinking, had struck a nerve Reba didn't even know existed. It was a raw, exposed wound. That night, Reba found herself tossing and turning. The image of Barbara Jean's wounded expression haunted her. It wasn't just about the food. It was about something deeper, something unspoken. Reba knew Barbara Jean had always been a woman who filled spaces, with her laughter, her presence, her boundless energy. But lately, it felt like she was trying to fill something else, something internal, a void within herself, with food. It was a coping mechanism, a silent plea for comfort that had spiraled out of control. As the first slivers of dawn painted the sky, casting a pale, ghostly light into her bedroom, Reba drifted into a fitful sleep, only to be jolted awake by a strange, ethereal voice. It was disembodied, chillingly clear. Yoo-hoo, I'm here, and I'm thin. Reba sat bolt upright in bed, heart pounding, her breath catching in her throat. Had she heard that? She glanced frantically around the room, but it was empty, save for the familiar furniture. Just the lingering echoes of a nightmare, a dream that felt too real, too insidious. A nightmare she herself had sometimes harbored, a silent, societal pressure that whispered constantly in the background, a relentless demand for physical perfection. She tried to shake it off, to dismiss it as a mere figment of her imagination. But then another voice, this one familiar, albeit muffled, echoed from the other side of the house. From Van and Cheyenne's room. Yeah, thin is as thick and dumb as one. That was Van, her son-in-law, his voice distorted by sleep and distance, but unmistakably his. Yikes, what's eaten Cooper Grape? That was Cheyenne, her daughter, her voice laced with confusion. Reba sighed, running a hand through her hair, a weary resignation settling over her. Oh, thank God it was just a nightmare. She pulled the covers tighter around her, seeking refuge from the unsettling thoughts. But then, the ethereal voice returned. Clearer this time, seemingly floating from the hallway. Closer, more insistent. Yoo-hoo, I'm here, and I'm thin. Reba closed her eyes, a shiver running down her spine. The nightmare wasn't over. It had simply transitioned into a waking reality, a metaphor for the relentless pressures that permeated their lives. And the nightmare continues. This wasn't just about Barbara Jean anymore. It was about the insidious, pervasive pressure to conform, to shrink, to fit into a mold that society deemed acceptable. Reba, a woman who had always prided herself on her resilience and independence, felt a tremor of unease. Her roots were planted in the past, a past where she knew who she was, a single mom who worked through hard, loved her kids, and never stopped. With gentle hands and the heart of a fighter, she was a survivor. But now, though her life was changing fast, she had to ensure who she wanted to be, not what others dictated. The world was shifting, and with it, The expectations placed on women, on mothers, on friends, and Reba, for all her strength,